Last night in Canton, hundreds of people lined both sides of the street outside the St. Lawrence County government building. They were there to oppose a plan for the sheriff's department to work with ICE.
No justice, no peace, no ICE in our streets. No justice, no peace, no ICE in our streets. No justice, no peace, no ICE in our streets.
Well, despite that huge show of protest, lawmakers passed an agreement to work with ICE, even as nationwide more people across the political spectrum are becoming more critical of the federal agency in charge of President Trump's immigration crackdown. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Securities offered through Hightower Securities, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Hightower is an SEC-registered investment advisor. And Kinney Drugs, now accepting S3, Nations Benefits, and OTC Network Wellness Benefit Cards for eligible over-the-counter health items. Details at KinneyDrugs.com.
Hey, I'm David Summerstein. It's Tuesday, February 3rd. The St. Lawrence County Legislature voted 11-4 to greenlight a partnership with ICE. Our St. Lawrence Valley reporter Catherine Wheeler was at the meeting last night and broke it all down with Monica Sandreski.
So the measure means some sheriff's deputies will be trained through a program ICE runs called 287G. The program has a few different options or models, and lawmakers gave the green light to one of them, and it's called the jail enforcement model. At the meeting, Sheriff Rick Ingalls said that means county deputies will be trained to search ICE's databases to see if anyone in custody or incarcerated at the jail may be in the country illegally.
What I mean by that is if somebody goes out, they get arrested, and they're arraigned in front of a judge, and that judge issues bail or sends them to jail, when during the intake process, they will be run through the federal database to see if there's a federal warrant that exists.
Engel went on to say that if they do find something, they'll contact ICE. During the meeting, lawmakers added a stipulation that they will assess the program in a year. So St. Lawrence County becomes the first in the North Country to pass an arrangement like this with ICE. And according to ICE, 8 New York counties and 3 municipalities already have 287G agreements in place.
Well, as we heard at the top, this was a very controversial issue with a couple hundred people showing up to voice their protest. What was the meeting like?
It was really long and it was very tense. The meeting had to be moved to a larger room to accommodate all of the people that were expected to come. There were audio troubles, and so it was really hard for people to hear throughout the meeting. There were occasional outbursts from the crowd about the volume levels, and lawmakers at one point threatened to throw people out if they didn't remain quiet and respectful. And later in the evening, one person was asked to leave the main room because they spoke out while legislators were debating the resolution. Overall, about 80 people spoke, with dozens more written comments. The public comment portion lasted for 4 hours. Board Chair David Forsyth said that was the longest public comment period he's seen. The vast majority spoke out against the proposal. Many said they feared ICE after what's happened across the country, especially in Minneapolis. Agents killed 2 people there during protests, and hundreds of people have been detained, even some U.S. citizens. Sarah Nandy, who lives in Potsdam, said that her husband is an immigrant and he was too afraid to attend the county meeting last night.
After witnessing ICE's abuses, I'm now afraid every time my husband and I are not together that they will see him, that they will profile him, that they will not ask questions, but they will break our car windows, drag him away. Who knows? We're seeing a lot of shocking things happening.
Many people said any collaboration with ICE is essentially inviting these agents into the county. They said they don't think ICE is well trained and that it could lead to dangerous situations here. Other people expressed concerns about transparency and how the agreement would affect locals' relationship with the sheriff's department. Still, others said they didn't want county taxpayer dollars going towards this, even though ICE pays for the training. And some said it could make international students at the county's 4 universities feel unwelcome here.
Were there any people who were supporting the proposal?
Yes, there were a handful of supporters of the proposal in the room, and just a couple of them spoke. Gnarly Wright of Messina said the collaboration with ICE would help find people who are in the country illegally and want to commit crimes.
I love this community. I want them safe. I want my kids safe. All my kids safe. I want my neighbors safe. And hopefully maybe we can come up with a better immigration system. But for now, We don't know who they are. They need to go.
And what did the lawmakers have to say about it?
Lawmakers who voted in support of the resolution, all of whom are Republicans, said it was about public safety. Joseph Lightfoot is a Republican who represents parts of Canton, Oswegatchie, and Morristown.
This whole matter is a result of the concern of the county sheriff, concerned about the safety, the public safety, and what he needs to do to ensure that criminals will be off the street, not being released onto the street from his jail. And I understand that completely, and I congratulate him for keeping that in mind.
The three Democrats on the board voted against the resolution, and they said they were listening to community feedback. The Democrats were joined by one Republican, John Burke, who represents Norfolk and part of the town of Potsdam. Burke said he was concerned about how this agreement could affect residents' relationship with the sheriff's department, and he also said he was moved by the public comments about fear of ICE.
Fear is fear, and I don't think that any of our citizens should have to fear walking down the street, especially citizens of color.
So what happens now?
Well, the measure passed, and the county said it didn't have an immediate timeline for the signing of the agreement. And it's worth noting that Governor Kathy Hochul said last week she's proposing legislation that would ban exactly these kinds of partnerships between local law enforcement and ICE. That proposal will have to make its way through the state legislature, so we'll stay tuned on what happens and how it would affect this resolution. And there's another thing worth noting. Board Chairman David Forsyth made a point of mentioning all these lawmakers are up for election this November.
That's our reporter Catherine Wheeler speaking with Monica Sandreski. As you heard Catherine say, Governor Kathy Hochul is proposing a bill that would ban the kinds of partnerships that St. Lawrence County just voted for. And she was on NPR's Morning Edition this morning to explain to A. Martinez why.
New York City is a sanctuary city, but statewide, we have had counties and sheriff's departments and other policing organizations, even as close as Nassau County on Long Island, that have bulked up their local police department to become basically deputized ICE agents. So it is happening in other parts of our state where they're using local resources that are taking away from local policing. And that's the genesis of this, which is saying, let ICE do their job. We don't agree with how they're doing it. I think they're a rogue agency out of control. But separate from that, our local police should be focused on solving local crimes or preventing crimes and not have them weaponize police officers against their own communities.
But there are 62 counties in the state of New York. Fewer than 10 are cooperating with ICE on any level. Why is it worth pushing this bill to make that a full 62 out of 62?
Because this shouldn't be going on anywhere. We have counties, like as I mentioned, Nassau County is a very large county right next to New York City and has a large immigrant population. And literally in my office, a short time ago, I hosted people who have been affected by this. And one was a 6th grade boy sobbing in my arms because his father was taken away from him by the local police officers, not ICE, but local police turned him over to ICE. And all he was doing was walking on the sidewalk outside a Home Depot. This child is traumatized. As a mom, I'm sobbing. I mean, the stories are just so egregious. And that's happening in a very populated county right here in New York.
Now, I've heard, Governor, that your bill doesn't go far enough. For years, immigration advocates have pushed for New York to pass the New York for All bill, which would provide more protections for immigrants. You do not support that bill, Governor. Why not?
Well, I sat with representatives from the coalitions this morning who gave me a lot of praise for what I did on Friday in recommending this bill. So they thought it was a very positive step. The New York for All Act wasn't passed by our legislature last year. It was passed by one of the two houses. And there's absolutely elements of that I believe we can find common ground with and get over the finish line. So the conversations are still ongoing.
It's Governor Kathy Hochul speaking this morning with A. Martinez on NPR's Morning Edition. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Christopher Watts of Canton and Tim Ellifritz of Johnsburg. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.